Good afternoon to you. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack here. It is now Friday the 28th of June, 2024. Still got the hotel background going, wrapping up some traveling in our first year of studying hail. But we're not here to talk about that today. I will address severe weather at the end of today's update. Instead, we got to talk about this hurricane season. As the graphic says there, the headline, this is serious. You know, I could have an alternate that says we need to talk, because this is starting to get very serious. And we just look at the National Hurricane Center homepage, and it jumps out at you. We've got Invest Area 94L sitting over here. There's 95L. I mean, that is the sixth. I'll just draw it on there. The number 6 looks terrible, but you get it. That's the sixth area of interest so far in the month of June. 6 invests. That's incredible. We have one named storm so far, a couple of them that could have gone on if they had a little more time over water, but we're up to the 6th area of interest, and the 95L, this area in red here, that's going to go on to become quite possibly a hurricane in June out in the main development region. That's just incredible, and we need to face this head on. So that's what a majority of my update is going to be today, kind of explaining the gravity of this situation and why we need to take this very, very seriously. Then, not to be outdone, we've got another area that has rolled off Africa, and that could go on to become another storm as well, potentially, and it is only here at the end of June. Now look, probably going to get some pushback because people, I don't know, sometimes you just have to wonder, they think this is fear-mongering, or it's hype, or they know more than those of us that have been doing this for 3 decades. And I'm here to show you that yes, this is unusual. It is rare. It's not unprecedented. That's why I didn't use that in any of my terminology. But it is unusual. This database here, this map system was developed by one of our supporters, Howard, over in Bermuda, and it shows us the points of origin going all the way back to 1851. Now, if math is correct, that's a long time, right? We can all kind of conceptualize that. 10 years ago, and not that long. 50 years ago, that's a little bit longer. I'm 53, so yeah, you know, but all the way back to 1851, that's a pretty big database. And you know, there were ship reports and other things all the way back before the satellites and the recon. So we do have a pretty good understanding of what the hurricane seasons were like before this one. So let me prove it to you. June 1st through the 10th, this is where you normally would see development in the historical record. All right? The second third of the month, June 11th through the 20th, there's a few areas sitting out here. we'll use this blue color to highlight it. 3 areas have developed in the second third of the month out in the deep tropics. So it's not unprecedented, but it is unusual. Because going back to 1851, there's only been 3. Then we go to the next third, and you add a few more down here. Bottom line, it is rare. And you can clearly see that a majority of the development is way over here in the western part of the basin, and this is huge, folks, the eastern Pacific. Guess how many named storms we have seen so far this year in the eastern Pacific? I'll give you a hint. It starts with Z and ends with O. 0. That is very important. When the Atlantic is producing main development region activity and the eastern Pacific is producing zilch, that is a sign of a very busy hurricane season in front of us. It's not hype. It's not fear-mongering. I'm trying to teach you to not be fearful, but to be educated and then take action. And that is what this kind of stuff shows us. We have the historic record, and then we have what is in front of us right now. All right? So there is Mark's little rant for you to start off the day. So what do we got? Well, let's go to the satellite picture here, and I'll show you the animation anyway from Tropical Tidbits. Let's use yellow here to make it pop better. First, there's 94L. That's not nothing. Big rainmaker. It's affecting the Cayman Islands right now to some extent, and this all will move across this area into the Bay of Campeche, bringing inclement weather to the Yucatan. I recently published a Hurricane U episode all about cruising with the meteorologist for Royal Caribbean, Craig Setzer. You might want to check that out on our YouTube channel. Really fascinating stuff, and yes, there could be cruises going down to the Yucatan, and this kind of weather can be disruptive, whether it's Royal Caribbean or whomever. 94L could bring some impacts down there. But look, most people, rightfully so, are very focused on 95L out here in the deep tropics. So we're going to spend a good deal of time talking about that. And then, of course, we've got all this other energy that's developing out here to the east of 95L, and that could go on to develop with time as we move forward. All right? So we got the Saharan air layer up here, and it's really interesting. I've seen a lot of people talking about that like several days ago. All these graphics of all this dust coming across with statements like it typically thwarts hurricane development, whatever, and typically it does. But this is not a typical year. The water temperatures are so warm relative to average that the instability, everything else, is basically overcoming the background climatological hurdles that are there naturally. Things are so favorable that those hurdles just don't seem to matter. And we're getting ready to see all of that happen right in front of our eyes. So here's a close-up of 95L. I mean, that is well on its way to becoming a tropical depression here on June the 28th. Look at that curvature. You can see it very well. You got banding going on in here, low pressure developing, a few hot towers, as we call it, these areas of deep thunderstorms or convection blossoming up with this system. One of my favorite tools here, the vorticity signature, very, very well pronounced down here. That's it. That's what I look for. That's the fingerprint. There's another one over there. That's the other system. That's 94L. And yeah, this is well on its way to becoming a tropical depression and then eventually a tropical storm. And the name, by the way, will be Beryl, Beryl. Beryl. Yep. So again, showing you this, you've seen it so many times, you're probably sick of it. I hear you. But this is the reason why. This very warm water relative to the long-term average, these are anomalies, departures from the average or the mean or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, that's just ridiculous. And so it's no surprise to those of us that have followed this stuff for our careers. And then for those of you too, look, you get some pushback. I get it. There's always going to be negativity. Even if you come up with something that cures all ailments and everything is wonderful and we live in a perfect utopian world, somebody will complain about it. That's fine. We're human, and I just don't care. I really don't. Because we do have a vast majority of people that are very open-minded, and they are seeking helpful information. And this kind of stuff and the forecasts that were made, you know, they are helpful. That stuff is helpful. You just have to know how to use it. You have to see what's in front of you and say, this is important, it means something, and I need to take action based on it. And that sea surface temperature profile has been screaming at us for months, and now we're starting to see it happen. All right, so let's look at the modeling here. And I got to give a big shout out to our friend, the GFS, which has done a remarkable job with the handling of this system so far. There it is down there. That vorticity signature matches very well the analysis over here of what that looks like, right? I just showed you that. So there it is. That's what it looks like. This is the 12Z run for today, 12 Zulu time. This was initialized. And we're looking at about 5,000 feet in the atmosphere. I like to think of this as the skeleton of the system. If it looks decent at this level of the atmosphere, the framework of it, then we've got something to work with. And as we move this through time, it is small geographically, spatially. It's not a very large system, but it's riding down there in the deep tropics, very well organized there. It goes right into the Windward Islands about July 1st or so. So that's about 78 hours from now, less than 3 days from now, a very potent looking tropical cyclone down there south of this very stout area of high pressure. That's the Azores Islands, so you could call this the Big Azores High, and a western part of it, the Bermuda part, the Bermuda Azores High as we call it. And then another system, this could eventually be Chris, if whatever happens over here doesn't beat that to it. Speaking of over here, let's go back. Oh yeah, it looks like something might even develop in the Bay of Campeche. So we could end up with 3 storms named within the next 5 to 6, maybe 7 days. So moving on forward, this thing goes into the islands. This is 78 hours by 96 hours, south of Puerto Rico, in the Eastern Caribbean. And look, I got to come on again. And I got to tell you something important. We typically don't see systems survive the Eastern Caribbean in early July. And you don't believe me? Well, let's take a look. Let's go back over to the map. How many systems do you see? Well, let's get a color that pops there. Let's use yellow. How many do you see develop in here? None. And a few of them died once they got there. And let's just go ahead and add the first 10 days of July just to make it more fair. Some of them did cruise through, but going back to 1851, again, that is not many because the Eastern and to some extent the Central Caribbean, not favorable for stuff to survive this time of year. Yet, there's something sitting down there right now. We can see that on the GFS. We're going to have to watch this very closely. This is out at 4 days. Finally, by day 5, it makes its way towards Haiti, maybe Dominican Republic south of there, Hispaniola as a whole. Have to watch that. Could be some very devastating impacts just from heavy rain. And then it's like, you got to be kidding me. The next system looks like it too wants to approach the Windward Islands by day 5. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. This is prep time. People need to be getting ready. They need to be thinking hurricanes here in early July and impacts. What's going to happen to me? This is where you turn it on yourself. Be selfish and say, how will this impact me? Are you going down to the Windward Islands? Do you live there? Do you know people there? You know, it's time to start thinking about this stuff. It's not August. It's happening now. And we need to be ready for it, however that works for you. And everybody's different. Looking at it from a different perspective, just to show you how some of this plays out. This is your mean sea level pressure and your 10-meter wind, right? So it's about 30-something feet above the ground, 10 meters. So we scooch this out through time, and you see a couple things I want to point out. Possibly a system here in the Bay of Campeche. And then, this is only 48 hours out. GFS has it down to 990 millibars. There's the indication of our other system starting to develop. As we keep pushing this forward, it goes into the islands, 983, 982, 968, 66 there near St. Lucia and vicinity. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is why I said this is serious as part of my graphic today. Then it moves into the Caribbean and potentially interacts with Hispaniola. That is far enough out into time that we will just have to wait and see. And then that other system comes through as a possible tropical storm, adding insult to potential injury down there. We don't know for sure, but that is a very alarming sign. Yes, this does raise the alarm bells, and people need to be getting ready down there, especially tourists that are like, oh, we didn't think hurricanes were a problem until August or September. Nope, not this year. And just look at this, folks. Massive high pressure sitting over the Atlantic. We're not going to have a bunch of this turning out to sea stuff like we had last year. We will have some, but look at what's happening already with these systems making it pretty far to the west as we move through time. So I want to show it to you from this perspective, really focusing in on the Windward Islands down here, the Lesser Antilles as a whole. Our systems start to move in there over the next few days. Watch it come in from the right. Yep, you got to take this seriously. Barbados, St. Lucia, Trinidad, Tobago, don't know exactly where it'll cruise through. This is about 3 days out, basically, right? 78 hours. That's not a lot of time to be getting ready for something this early in the hurricane season. All right, what else did I have for you? What do we got? Oh, yeah, the ship's diagnostic. I was looking over this. This is very important stuff here. Just kind of reading through some of the parameters. Look at the shear, very low over the next several days. Uninhibiting shear. So the shear, according to the ship's guidance, which is the statistical hurricane intensity prediction scheme, not much shear overall. And I was looking at the rapid intensification part. I'll show you that in a minute. The other part is the relative humidity in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Nice and moist all through there. So all that dry air talk that we've seen, and I've certainly talked about the Saharan air layer, but no, relative humidity, not going to be a problem. Looking down at the rapid intensification parameters, some of this is pretty interesting. We're looking at, let's see, where was it? Right here. So the different matrix here of the rapid intensification probabilities, yeah, it's there. We could see some rapid intensification with this. Some of the different means here, 2 to 3 times. This one's 4 times the climatological mean out at let's see, what is the time frame on this? 48 hours. Sorry, it's right there in front of me. 4.1 times the climatological mean. Important stuff here showing how the environment is very, very favorable. Just want to hone in real quick on a couple things related to 94L. This is what it looks like on satellite. Pretty formidable there, starting to bubble up. As I said, the Cayman Islands could be getting some inclement weather. I have to ask my friend Adam down there how that's working out. But then looking at the track guidance here for 94L, again, looks like crossing the Yucatan, getting into the Bay of Campeche, and it looks like it could go on to potentially develop into a tropical storm. The guidance generally suggests that, a low-end tropical storm over the next 2 days, so that could become a named storm as well. Now, this is the track guidance for 95L. What stands out to me, a couple things. First of all, I guess I'll highlight it in this red color. The envelope here is really tightly clustered over the next several days. You don't see a bunch of stuff going this way and that way and out here and whatever. That is a tightly clustered guidance envelope, as we call it. And the general idea is into the Eastern Caribbean, Southeastern Caribbean. Then most of the guidance takes this right into the vicinity of the Northwest Caribbean. And then we're going to have to watch and see. Does this keep going right into Central America? Will there be some kind of a weakness up here that allows this to gain some latitude and get into the Gulf of Mexico? Or maybe Florida? Is that possible? Of course it's possible, and I'm not trying to be flippant about it. That's so far out in time, we simply do not know. But generally this time of year, these systems tend to cruise on to the west. We think about Emily in 2005 as an example, but you never know. Nothing's ever set in stone for sure, even 24 hours out. I mean, come on, the weather is very changeable. So we're going to have to watch this very closely over the coming days as we end June and get into July. All right? Like I said, out here trying to capture some hail. It kind of came up short yesterday. Just not in the right position for the big stuff. But we saw an amazing aurora when it was all said and done up in Montana. Wow, that was incredible. Check that out on my Twitter feed, at HurricaneTrack, of course. But this is today's outlook, the last day for us. Maybe some hail here. They took away, interestingly enough, I remember earlier they had a hatched area over here indicating 10% or greater probabilities of 2-inch hail. That's gone. So probably not going to see much today. And I think we're going to wrap things up. Scott, my partner, and I that's helping me, Gillette, Wyoming, somewhere in here. We're going to get on down here to Denver later. And then that's it for the hail project for this year. And we really start focusing on the hurricane season. Last thing before I let you go, on YouTube, we got a bunch of stuff for you, especially if you're new, you're brand new to watching my videos. We have all kinds of content, including this neat little series we call Hurricane U. There's the one about cruising with Craig Setzer. And some of you remember him down in Florida. We've got an original series that we've been doing called the Hurricane Highway. And then all of our old documentaries, the movies that I've put out, so to speak, they're all there right on our YouTube channel. So subscribe, hit that notification button so that you can be notified when I put out new content. All right? I'm trying to keep you guys informed and also get back to the original slide here so that I can sign off. All right, so that is it from me for today. You guys have a great weekend. We'll have an update tomorrow and Sunday, and as I travel back to North Carolina with our Toyota Tacoma and get it ready for hurricane season. Not going to miss this. Going to make sure we stay on top of it and keep you informed to the best of my ability. Again, thanks for tuning in. From all of us at HurricaneTrack, I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.